Welcome, everyone, to the Fly Guys podcast. Justin Goodhart alongside Cameron Klein, just diving right in.
Just sliding in.
It's like the old days. Cameron, how are you doing? It is Sunday. It's Sunday afternoon, and we've just witnessed the biggest thing that has happened in the last, what do you think, 30 years in the NHL at least? You know, I'm trying to think of a bigger moment in hockey than what happened today up in Long Island. And I'm just going to go ahead and exit out of this Phillies game real quick because I actually don't want to. I don't want to break my screen, and two, I do want to talk about the big thing. Man, how cool is it? How cool is? Well, firstly, how are you?
Good. It is cool, and yeah, we're coming right off of watching it happen. As everybody, I'm sure, was tuned in. Alex Ovechkin broke the record that he himself, as of I think 2016, said would never be touched. He put it as it's impossible, and he himself has done what he deemed to be impossible, and he broke the all-time goal record of Wayne Gretzky.
Apparently, when he said
goals.
the word impossible, he thought, well, I'm possible. You know, I guess that's how he viewed it. And he ends up, he broke the record that I don't think anyone ever thought could be broken. I think that a lot of people, the points record, as we sit here today, we would both say that's never getting touched. Like, at least not in anyone that is currently in the NHL. I don't think that's ever getting touched.
Yeah.
The goals record, we all agreed, unlikely, but it could be touched.
Mm-hmm.
And then it really is cool. I actually think it's one of the coolest things that I've ever seen as a sports fan. And I don't like the Capitals, and Alex Ovechkin has definitely tortured the Flyers over the years. But when he broke into the league in 2005, I think back to like his sliding on the ice goal back in the like those old Capitals uniforms with the eagle coming straight down. That's a guy that you've watched. I've watched my whole sports watching life, essentially, and I think that for him to have done it in the manner in which he did, he pulled himself out of the game. He didn't want the goal to be an empty netter, which honestly I was ready for it to be, and I was going to really laugh. But you know what? This is the thing about Alex Ovechkin.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we give him enough credit. I don't think we give a lot of these players enough credit. He is a student of the game. And he is very prideful in the history of the game. And I think that he knew that for this goal to be something, it had to be a traditional – honestly, it had to be an Alex Ovechkin type goal. And it was. He gets it near the high part of the slot, closer to the – we'll call it, the left side of the net, and he buries it. And the only thing that it wasn't, that I kind of wished it wasn't a slap shot.
Right.
It was a wrist shot, which is not what you think of when you think of Ovechkin. You think of a big slap shot on a power play. But it still was a vintage Alex Ovechkin goal. And for a lot of fans who have watched, especially over the last 20 to 30 years, you should look at that moment and really appreciate what you watched. Because one day you're going to get to tell someone, I watched the greatest goal scorer in NHL history. I've made my jokes, Cameron, about he's an empty net merchant. And yeah, he's had plenty of empty nets, but there is little denying that what he's done today is definitely one of the coolest things to have ever happened in hockey. And a moment that, as I sit here right now, I'll tell you right now, no one's ever breaking his record. I just don't see how anyone will ever come along that's as good of a goal scorer as he is.
Yeah. It would take a very, very, very special individual, and a ridiculous amount of focus. Because again, like he himself back in 2016 was just like, it's not happening because the number is like astronomical. I like how the way you put it too, where like it was his office, right? Everyone always says Alex Ovechkin has his office, right? Especially on the power play, one timer, bang. It was from that same area. But I remember my wife said the same thing when it happened. She was like, yeah, right from where he normally does it. But I was like, but it wasn't the one-timer. I was hoping for the one-timer. But, beggars can't be choosers. But, no, it's nothing short of amazing. I'd be very shocked to see if somebody would ever touch this record and or break this record again. However, we said that before, right? And he's done it. But as much as we joke about, as you just said, the empty nets here and there, yeah, LOL, he doesn't back check, like goofy little crap like that we've done before, which really we just use as a coping mechanism to be like, well, because the Flyers haven't had a goal scorer remotely close like that since like Simone Gagne, pretty much, but or Jeff Carter, but but no, it's nothing sort of amazing. And the other thing too is like, as not taking anything away from Wayne Gretzky, right? Or anything from that era of the game, but the level of skill in terms of shooters and also in terms of puck handling, in terms of goaltending,
it's different.
It's much different. It's much harder to score now, in my opinion, than it was back then. A lot of times you look back, you see those highlights. It's a lot of one-timers. It's a lot of just, forehand, backhand, got him completely undressed. And,
You're
and
right.
Ovechkin had to just deal with it in a. I mean, think of the goaltenders he's had to go against throughout his career in this time. I mean, Henrik Lundqvist, Carey Price, Jonathan Quick. Like, I'm just trying to think of like the big ones, right?
So I think of honestly, you mentioned John Quick, you mentioned Carey Price, you mentioned Henrik Lundqvist. How about Marc-Andre Fleury from Pittsburgh?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Yep.
Sergei Bobrovsky's been here for so long, obviously now, and it's been great goalie after great goalie after great goalie. Even Andrei Vasilevsky, like even though he came a little bit later. After 2016, 2017, Alex Ovechkin had 558 goals. He's now at 895. I just don't think that it's so hard to kind of appreciate that by the time Cameron and I were juniors in college,
right,
to now,
right,
he eclipsed over 337 goals. And he did it, 49 goals the next season, 51, 48. But then he had a down. But remember, there was the COVID year. There was the 2019, 2020, and 2020, 2021 should have killed the dream.
Yeah.
And it didn't. And I just think that that's a miraculous thing. And I would go even far as to say, Cameron, that when you add in the context of the shortened COVID season and then the other shortened COVID season, he still ended up with 72 goals in a 113 game pace. I would still say the fact that he could get to the record after that happening, as he's getting older, as he's now 39 years old, I think that that's the most, maybe it's not it is one of the top 5 most impressive feats in the history of sports.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's so hard. We have pushed sports to the point where it is hard to break records. You look at baseball, for example. Like, who's going to break Barry Bonds' record to get to 763? That is so unbelievably hard to do. In football, who is going to break Tom Brady's, touchdown record?
I'm about to say, multiple of them, right? And like, because like you just said, when you said like the great athletic years and the great athletic of individual performances, my first thought was Brady. But it's like the guy, after 40 threw for a 5,000 yards. And it's like that's one of those moments where it's like, wow, this is on par with that, if not higher, right? Like, it's good.
It's one thing to break a single season record, I think, because single season records can be broken all the time. Who knows? Maybe Reggie Leach's, goal, a single season goal mark in Philadelphia will one day be broken. It's not, if someone were to break that, say, in the next 3 years, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised because, again, a single season record, it's just like everything clicked for you in a season. To break this record, everything had to break for you over the course of 20 years of craft and dedication, and you avoid the wall that is physical decline. And he did all those things. And I just think that it deserves to be really appreciated, and it deserves to be celebrated, and it is one of the coolest things ever. It's a little frustrating that it wasn't on home ice, just because I think that the atmosphere in DC would have been out of control.
Yeah. Yeah.
But even Islanders fans recognized the beauty of that moment, as they should have. And it's a game that the Islanders ended up winning anyway, so they can feel good. Their team won, and they got to see the most historical goal they're ever going to see in their lives.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm trying to remember, where are they on the standings at the Islanders? Are they even?
They're out. maybe they're not officially out, but they're done. Pretty much.
No, exactly. And again, we've talked about too, but like, there's plenty of moments all throughout hockey where there's the moments that are bigger than hockey. A lot of them are more heartfelt and then emotional, that kind of thing. But no, I think it's one of those things where this is a moment where Islander fans, NHL fans, it's just a hockey fan moment, right? Where it's just like the greatest of all time, who's basically become like a phantom at this point in Wayne Gretzky, because it's not going to be touched. Most of his records, it was touched, and hockey fans in general got to see that, which is what you saw that appreciation with. It was and you pointed out, we talked a little bit before we started recording, like they did it right, but it was funny to me where it was mid-game and it was like everything is on hold. We're bringing the carpet out.
Yeah,
like we're making this a whole thing, and the Islanders are just like, it was like this little like shrug moment where like Bettman was just sort of like, you guys aren't making the playoffs anyway, right? Like let's be real here. Like this is bigger than
it
you.
It is funny. I will say
that's how it should have been. That's how it should have been.
They pretty much did that when Peyton Manning set the record.
Mm-hmm.
I remember like they stopped the game when Drew Brees got the yards record.
Yep.
They stopped the game, or they paused everything when Barry Bonds broke Hank Aaron's record. But in fairness to baseball is an easier game to kind of stop. Like there's no time obviously, and baseball is kind of like a stationary game anyway. Hockey obviously is quite a lot of movement involved, and got to get warmed up and all that stuff. So it is funny that they stopped the game, but I think it was the right decision to stop the game.
Yeah.
And I'll say to you, or I'll say to our audience what I said to you before we started recording. He scores the goal. I have the moment where it's tugging at my heartstrings, and then I sit down. I think to myself, could he get to 1,000? Like, is 1,000 like out of the realm of possibility?
Because like he's 39.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's up there. That's up there. And earlier this week, I've been telling my wife about the whole thing when he tied it a couple days ago. And I was like, he tied it. He's probably going to break it this weekend. Blah blah blah. We're talking, and she posed me the question: do you think he retires after this? And I thought to myself, I was like, I mean, he is close to 40, but why stop? He's at 42 goals this season at 39 years old. As you put it, he would need 105 more goals to get it right. So theoretically, if he's going on the Alex Ovechkin pace, he's still going to need about 3 seasons.
Yeah, of at least 35 goals.
I mean, 42, 43? Does he push that? I mean,
I don't think that. I just don't think it should shock anyone if that were to end up happening.
That's my point. Like the guy, of all the players in hockey, regardless of this record, right before this record happened, even a couple years ago, you watch Alex Ovechkin score. Every goal he scores, it's like it's his first one.
Yeah.
Right. Like nobody seems to love scoring more than Alex Ovechkin. Nobody has that individual drive like he does to put it in the back of the net. So for somebody to come up to me and say, hey, I think he's going to play another 3 seasons, it's like, I'm not going to put money against that, because the guy's a lunatic when it comes to work ethic and drive, clearly. So could he push more? Maybe. Why not? Let's go for 900 first, right? Which he might even break this season, and let's keep going. Who cares? Let's just keep going.
I say, listen again, and I also want to point something else out, because it needs to be mentioned, because this is obviously going to be the season everyone's like, oh, that's the year he broke Gretzky's record. It's also the year in which he broke his leg in the first couple months of the year and was back within 6 weeks.
Still 8 away from 50 goals on the season.
And he's still good, and he's still nearly going to hit 50 goals, which has been like his career average as it is. These are all the marks of someone that you have watched, the greatest that there ever was, and maybe there ever will be. And it also, it's unintended, but it kind of pokes a little bit of a hole through the mystique of Wayne Gretzky a little bit. It does. It kind of pokes it doesn't deflate the whole balloon, but some air was let out of the balloon a little bit with this record being broken, because I think that we all talk about Wayne Gretzky as if he was the son of God, right? Like that's how he's referred to.
Yeah.
And it's always been ridiculous a little bit to me, even though I think he's the greatest hockey player ever.
Yeah, it's no.
The thing about Wayne Gretzky, you do mention a point that I think more new age fans would say, that Wayne Gretzky played in an era where the goalie was always standing. Goals against averages were not as good back in the day. Gretzky played at a time where it felt like the ice was so much more open, and the
Mm-hmm.
speed of the game was nowhere near close to what it is today.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, Ovechkin breaks the record in this. This is the crazy part. He breaks the record in the same amount of games played by Wayne Gretzky. So this is one of those rare abilities where we can look at it and we
Mm-hmm.
can judge it pretty fairly. Like, okay, in 1,487 games, it took Gretzky to get 894. 1,487 games, it takes Ovechkin to get 895. Which is more impressive in that result? I would probably argue Ovechkin's. I
Yeah.
think that would be a very fair statement. I also think Ovechkin has been. I don't know if it does anything more for me or for you necessarily, but I think the fact that he did it all with one team does kind of stick out to me a little bit.
It's awesome. It's very cool. Like how much I weigh that in terms of like to the level of to add it to the greatness. I'm not exactly sure. I'd have to kind of rethink that. But again, like, you got to think about the level of coaching changes, the teams that he's dealt with, right? Like different goaltenders, all those kinds of things. And again, we're talking about an individual record, not a team record. So Alex Ovechkin was always going to be individually great,
Yeah.
right? He was always going to be individually great. But at the same time, it is very, very cool that he did it all throughout the Washington Capitals. As a Capitals fan, I mean, he's the best ever, and there's no debate whatsoever when it comes to Washington Capital players. So that is very, very cool on that part. At the same time, like, yeah, I would argue it's more impressive as a goal standard as well, too, with, again, what we mentioned before about how the game has changed, the level of skill has changed, and Alex Ovechkin, throughout his tenure, has just evolved with it. Going into 40 years of age, it's awesome. If I'm a Caps fan, I'm jacked up. At the same time, I do have to say, it does knock Wayne Gretzky's mystique down a little bit until you just move your eyes over it a little bit more, and you're like,
Right.
oh, with the
The assists and the
894 that he did in the same amount of games, he also scored close to 2,000 assists, which is just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous.
I mean, that is genuinely. I actually need to do something real quick. I need to do some quick math in my head. So, all right. So he finished his career with 1,963 assists divided by 1,487 games. So he averaged 1.3 assists per game over the course of nearly 1,500 games in what was essentially like a 20-year career. That is just quite astounding. When no matter how you slice that, and then you look at the total points mark, 2,857 in 1,487 games. So essentially, like 2 points per game over the course of 20 games.
It's
20
ridiculous.
Years. That is
yes,
unheard of.
absolutely ridiculous. But again, back to Alex Ovechkin, like to not take it away from him, but at the same time, like you also think of the guys that he did it with, right? Like if you asked me 10 years ago, like if he was going to break the record, I'd obviously say no, but I would have thought that Nicholas Backstrom would still be involved in some way, right? Like the amount of assist guys that Alex Ovechkin has gone through, and yet he has still remained the same, no matter who he's lined up with, doesn't really matter. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Is kind of funny because Backstrom was the Robin to his Batman. Like that's kind of how it always was. And Backstrom, Nicholas Backstrom was a very good player in the NHL. But it felt like that when that Backstrom eventually left, I think to an extent maybe I thought maybe Ovechkin would struggle to find another guy that could get him the puck as effectively. It helps that the Capitals also happen to have guys like John Carlson that could feed him the puck. They could get him, from the puck to the point. They obviously had Evgeny Kuznetsov for a little bit, and Kuznetsov was a pretty productive player. And he took attention off of Ovechkin just enough to allow the scoring to keep continuing. The Capitals have always had good goal scorers on their team that kind of helped, whether it was TJ Oshie and my alarm's going off. TJ Oshie or even even Tom Wilson for like a couple of years could light the lamp a little bit.
Yeah, he's at 30 this year himself, which is
30.
Which is impressive.
So I think that there is a lot to be said about the caliber of players that the Capitals consistently put around Alex Ovechkin. Did not put, as weird as it sounds, a ton of pressure on Ovechkin because he knew that others would get theirs while he would continue to get his.
Yeah, and also it never the change in chemistry, the change in evolution of the game as Backstrom went out and Kuznetsov came in, like those kinds of things. He never missed a step ever, and it's just another testament of like, regardless of where he went, right, regardless of whatever team he was drafted by, regardless of who was on his line. he's one of those guys who they always say the great players are the great players that can elevate everybody else around them. And Alex Ovechkin, clearly looking at this and looking at his entire career, has been one of those guys, if not that guy entirely himself. So yeah, it's
incredible.
It's kind of it's hard to talk about because it's like we literally just watched it happen an hour ago, and
Yeah,
it's just like you're trying to compartmentalize like 20 years of hockey that you remembered this guy, and trying to put that all into one sentence of like how do you feel, and it's like
it's just it is crazy to me that like we watched this an hour ago. And we're trying to like react to it. We're trying to be like find the words right for it, and all I keep thinking to myself is like, man, he really could go for 1,000 if he really wanted it. If he sits down and decides I want it. He's going to have it. That's how I view it. There's also another aspect that I thought about when we started talking about it. And I actually go back to one of your team's biggest moments ever when Don Shula broke the wins record in Philadelphia in 93. And there was kind of like an emotional like they kind of came down a little bit. Like the emotions were so high and then everything kind of settled down. And Don Shula really achieved a ton of success after that. And as a matter of fact, after winning that game in Philadelphia, you would have thought for sure the Dolphins would have made the playoffs that year, and they didn't even end up making the playoffs.
Yeah, no.
It is possible that with now getting the record, maybe Ovechkin, maybe some of that drive next year, if he plays in the NHL next year, which I assume he will, maybe it's not nearly as driven as we've seen in the past. And maybe instead of ending up with 45, 50 goals, maybe he ends up with 25, 30 goals, which is still great. I mean, by today's NHL standards, 30 goals is still a really good mark, but by Ovechkin standards, that would be like, he's not the same anymore.
Yeah, it's a modest year. It's a modest year. Alex is kind of taking a back seat this year. Yeah. But again, at 40, it would be impressive. But go on.
It would. Man, it's going to be nuts in 20 years when Matvei Michkov breaks the goal record. It's going to be it's going to be so cool. Can't wait for that.
Can't wait. I can't wait to see 896. Although he's probably going to have to hit like
I was going to say he's probably going to have like 950.
But again, like I will say, like you said, it's because that could happen. But would I put money on Alex Ovechkin just kind of being like, well, we got it now. The motivation's not quite there. I can't do it because I've never seen that. I've never seen him not care. You know what I mean? So.
The joy and euphoria on his face, sliding on the ice when he got it, just like, you know what? It's how I think I would want a player to react to that moment. Like when Peyton Manning got the touchdown record, he puts his fist up in the air, like he's like, "All right, thank you very much. Let's shake hands. Let's get back to work."
Peyton Manning. Yeah.
Ovechkin's like, "No, absolutely not. I just broke like one of the records that no one ever thought would be broken. I'm making something out of this." And the team responded accordingly.
Yeah.
Jump off the benches like you just won the Stanley Cup Finals, right?
Yeah.
And you mob each other. And you know what? How much more special would it be for the Washington Capitals organization, for those players, and for Alex Ovechkin himself to have gotten the record in the same year that the Capitals could theoretically win the Stanley Cup Finals? Because they are definitely going to be the favorites in the Eastern Conference to come out of the East. And I think that would even make it all the more magical, mythological, like, however you want to put it.
I mean, I would imagine that's what the conversation in the room is right now.
It has to be.
I mean, how do you
they lost 4-1, so I'm sure part of the conversation is going to be like, you know what? I'm sure the coach is really glad it's done, and now they can get back to focusing on hockey. That is probably such a big thing with that coaching staff now that it's done and out of the way.
Yes.
And
do
now
not let this be your parade. Don't let this be your parade. It's not over yet. Yada, 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 whatever. Yeah.
You smile at the team and go, okay, we'll have our champagne. But I want to have more champagne down the line, guys. So we got to keep this going. And I'm sure Ovechkin would echo the same sentiment.
Yeah, he's been there before. Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, so a big congratulations to obviously Alex Ovechkin. Not that he needs to hear it from a lowly little podcast like us, but it's definitely good to, I think, to give him the props and all that stuff. And it wasn't Sidney Crosby, so I'm not that unhappy about it. All right, like I can live with the fact that it's Ovechkin and not Crosby.
He did. I think Crosby did break one of his Gretzky's records. I think it was for the most point per game seasons in a career. I believe
that's crazy if that's the case. That's nuts.
Let me see.
I totally forgot that Spencer. I couldn't even think of the name of the Washington Capitals coach, and now it's just hitting me now. It's Spencer Carberry. Because, like, if you ask me who the coach of the Washington Capitals is, I'd say it's Alex Ovechkin.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, I would have said the same thing. Right. But yeah, no, Sidney Crosby broke Wayne Gretzky's record of most consistent seasons with a point per game with 20 seasons. Wayne Gretzky was previously had 19. So,
I mean, that's cool. That's not a stat anyone's going to care about.
yeah, it's very under the radar. Like,
If
it's
you're
cool,
not breaking the
but
points record, then that stat is really meaningless to me.
exactly. It's one of those kind of like, well, if you squint at it and look at it this way, it's like, cool. But no, it's still, it's it's wild. It is wild. And what else is there to talk about other than that, right? Like other than Alex Ovechkin breaking the record. That's pretty much what everybody, in my opinion, NHL wise, has been looking at for the past 2 weeks. Because the Flyers, they're flying. They lost the game again last night. That's good.
Yeah,
can't win too many of them. Don't want to win too many of them. So that's good.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's talk about that for a moment. We'll talk about the Flyers. They played last night against the Montreal Canadiens, and they lost 3-2. Good work, boys. Nice job. You lose, and you keep that. You now have officially eliminated yourself from playoff contention, as if there was ever any doubt to begin with. They have 5 games left in their season. This season that is enough to have made you crazy, is enough to have made you miserable, is enough to have made you really question your love for hockey as a whole. And now they're in dead last place of the Eastern Conference, sitting right there, same record as the Boston Bruins. Sure, tell that to a Bruins and Flyers fan after the 2010 series. Like, oh, by the way, one day you guys are both going to be at the bottom of the conference. Tell that to the Bruins fans last year. Like, oh, you're going to be as bad as the Flyers are.
Yeah, I don't think anybody. We were not expecting to see them down here with us. That's for sure. We were not expecting them to be in the same room. But here we are. Pop a seat, pop a squat, take a seat.
And enjoy hell, because it's very cold when you get down to this level of bad. But yeah, so there's 5 games left, and it feels like the most apathetic 5 games you could ever watch, because they're probably not going to get the first overall pick because they've won too many games. They're playing the Rangers on Wednesday, but do you care? I certainly don't. Then they play the Islanders at home. Their last home game of the season will be against the Columbus Blue Jackets. They have Ottawa, Columbus, Buffalo. So really, not really any of these matchups don't even matter.
Yeah, not for Philadelphia. For those teams, they do. The Flyers are kind of playing spoiler for like the Rangers. But
I guess, Columbus is pretty much dead in the water when it comes to, they're 6 points out of a playoff spot with 7 games left. They would need to they need to win out and then get a lot of help.
Yeah, exactly.
The Rangers are 4 points back, and they have the same amount of games played as the Senators and Canadiens. So they obviously need to probably win at least 5 of their final 6 at least, and then get some help.
Yep.
4 points out. It's really, with 6 games left, it's so hard to overcome.
Oh, yeah.
The Islanders are 5 points out with 6 games left. The Islanders have to win out. The Red Wings have to win out. And so, pretty much every team at this point has to win out. That is still realistically in it.
Yeah. Like that, it could happen. It could happen for sure. Like some of them might shuffle and squeeze, but you're asking a lot, especially for Ottawa, who has been surging over the past 2 months. Montreal is on a 4-game win streak. They've been putting it together for this last run. Marty St. Louis really trying to, make a statement as well, being, I think this is his 3rd year coaching.
Yeah.
And what he's done with that team, and it'd be a big statement for them to finally reach this next level for a young team with a new culture. So yeah, you're asking a lot. You're asking a lot to try to change this kind of thing. But so yeah, it doesn't really matter as much. And for us, it doesn't matter.
No.
All.
You're I guess you watch from Michkov. It's just
right.
It's such a they really, these last 5 games just mean absolutely nothing to me. I can't bring myself to say anything of note. There's no what are we gonna do? Break down the game? Who cares?
Right.
Half the players on this team shouldn't even be on the team next year. And oh, well, this is something to build off of in 2025, 2026. There's nothing.
Right.
There's nothing to build. The only thing that you can build off of in this season is Michkov's season. That's the only thing we're building off of going forward. You're not building off of anything the goalies did. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. Like we could go through and do each player, which we'll do probably on the offseason. Yeah, we'll do we'll go through and be like, who is somebody who we actually like? Who what do we like from this person? Whatever. We could do that. We will do that.
We could talk about how improved he became really down the stretch. We could talk about all those things, but there's just
as of right now, right.
Who cares? It's
We're in this room.
I,
Right now,
I'm not.
we're watching. We were watching for Alex Ovechkin to break the record,
Yeah.
and now I'm watching to see. Okay, can the Ottawa Senators actually? Are they going to be a real contender? Can I actually root for them? Am I rooting? Am I doing it? Am I going to look for a knockoff Claude Giroux Ottawa Senators jersey? I might. I might.
Mm-hmm.
That's what these next 5 games are for me, at least. Is do I want to spend $40 and get a fake jersey?
I
Maybe.
gotta say, I really gotta give Jordan Romano a lot of credit. I crap talked him before we started the show, Cameron, and I said, "Hey, I can't wait till this guy gives up 3 runs and the Dodgers take the lead." And you know what? To his credit, that's exactly what he did. He gave up 3 runs and the Dodgers took the lead. And I just have to make mention of that because I think I'm a really smart guy. Now, thankfully, the Phillies decided they were going to take the lead right back in the 7th inning. But I just need to, make sure I threw that out there that I correctly predicted it, Cameron. I said, you watch, he's going to give up 3 runs. And then he did. And I'm the smartest sports fan in the world. I'm just, that's what I do.
Just let him know. Just email whoever you got to email. Where's Jack? Where's Jack Fritz? Email Jack Fritz. Maybe he can do something about it.
You know what? I don't think I don't think I'd have to argue with Jack too much on this. I know that Jack's job is to be somewhat of like a hot take guy. He's good at it. Like he's very good at what he does.
Yeah.
We still love Jack, obviously.
Even then, he's not. I wouldn't go as far as to call him a hot take. But like, yeah, his job.
No, you know what he
requires
does?
him to-
No, this is maybe not a hot take. This is what Jack does that I love so much. He knows how to get Philly fans angry, which he's a Philly fan, so he's better to know.
Mhm.
And I remember going into the NFC Championship game when it was found out that we were going to play Washington. He puts out this tweet as like Packers, Rams, and Redskins. Talk about a totally stress-free playoffs. We're going to roll. And all of these fans that are Eagles fans just start tweeting him, just calling him the worst names because obviously like how dare you're going to jinx it and all that stuff, all that stuff. And he's just like, he did like the thing where, what is it? It's like the meme of like, you have like that, calm face in that cartoon, like all the swords are up at your neck, and it's like, what sports?
From
that's
Tangled.
That's exactly what he does. So I really like Jack for doing that because it does make me laugh a lot of time. But then there was also the part of me as a fan who was like, Jack, I really wish you wouldn't have said that.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Because I could see maybe that's bulletin board material. Maybe they're going to hang your tweet up in their locker room.
For real though. For real. Yeah, because I did the same thing because Olivia, because she's an Eagles fan as well.
Yeah.
All Philly sports fan, but just over the top, very much says the same thing. During the Super Bowl when they were up by 30 points or whatever, and they brought in Kenny Pickett, she was just like, should they be doing that? And I was thinking, yeah, they're fine.
Even I was like, all right, yeah, you can bring them in. It's fine.
Right. But that being said, it's like I always want to make fun of her and also be like, they don't this what jersey you wear. You don't have to take a shower after the second quarter, right? Like you're good. You don't need to wash the mojo off. You're fine. At the same time, I'm not going to say those things because it's just if it does end up blowing up my face, it's going to come back to me. Like whether it's a rational thought by them or not, it's going to come back to me. So it's like you got to be careful. But I agree with him where it's just like, yeah, I'm not going to jinx this thing because that doesn't jinxes don't mean anything. I can tell you firsthand, my dad. The amount of different Dolphin cups we had in the house season after season after season, because this is the cup. This is going to be the one. These are the cups. We're going to be drinking Super Bowl Sunday. Remember, be ready for this. 9-7, 5-10. Never worked out. So, yeah, I don't really believe in the mojo stuff as much.
I got to say.
I'm not kidding, dude. He had 4 sets. It was at least 3 or 4 sets of different cups.
It's not too dissimilar from the fact that I keep track of what the Eagles' record is depending on which jersey I wear. Like
I did that too for the longest time. Yeah,
the Dawkins jersey is now 7-0 and 1-0 in Super Bowls. So that's like. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that anyone that okay, then why don't you wear that jersey every week? Well, you can't because mojo can eventually wear off. You have to know. You have to pick your moment when you're going to wear it. So I wore the Dawkins jersey for the NFC Championship game for the Super Bowl because I was like, the mojo feels right. It feels like they need that little extra bit to help them get over. Honestly, I think I could have worn Redskins and Chiefs gear, and I think it wouldn't have been enough to stop them because they were just on a rampage at that point.
Yeah, you could have.
We all do our things. Sometimes I pick a certain spot on my couch that I'm going to watch the game from. It's like that's my spot. And if things aren't going so well, maybe I'll switch to the blue chair in the living room, and I'll just like I'll sit there and see. Well, they got a first down. Well, I guess I'm not leaving this chair for a little bit. But yeah, that's what I like
I'll
about.
show you. Can I show you what I do? This is what I do.
Yeah.
All right, you're the TV. All right.
All right, he's getting up. He's standing up behind his chair. For those on YouTube, you can already see this. For those not on YouTube, yeah, well, okay, he's got his arms crossed and he's like, yep, and he leans forward. Yep. Well, I do the same thing here, Cam. Yep. This thing.
I just stand.
Yeah.
I just stand. I don't sit down. And my wife will just be like, "Can you sit down? You're making me uncomfortable." No, I can't. Because as soon as I sit down, then something happens, and then I'm back up. So
I do the thing, Cameron, where like, I do the thing where like, let's say this is my couch, this chair is my couch. It's like, let's just say it's third and 6.
Yes.
It's 3rd and 6, and I do this.
Right.
I'm just like, I'm knelt down, but I have like my arms like on the top of the couch.
Yep.
And then they get to stop, and I immediately kind of do like a hop, and I'm like, okay, all right.
Yep. Yeah.
I always do
the squat.
I always do.
I'll
and I say this
down,
without fail.
You know? What's up?
Eagles. Let's just say the Eagles score a touchdown, and the first thing, like I'll be like, all right, like I'll clap my hands. I sometimes don't react. Sometimes I clap my hands. If it's a huge touchdown, obviously I'll go crazy. But my first thought is like, you know what? This touchdown means nothing to me unless they get a stop immediately. I need a 3 and out.
Yeah.
And then and then I'm driving myself crazy on the next defensive series.
I hear my father's voice in my head after every touchdown I've ever seen while at home, which is always 0-0. Scoreboard says 0-0. Keep going. 0-0. And it's just like, it's the right mentality, though. It is the right mentality. Your
father would be such a good coach on the Dolphins. Just like, hey, because that's what Saquon Barkley's on the sideline doing during the Super Bowl. It's 0-0. F the scoreboard. Forget it.
He's right, though. It's the right mentality to have. You can't take your foot off the gas, especially in professional sports.
Also, I have a personal achievement to talk about.
Oh, okay.
So it's not something I've been talking about greatly on the show because it's more of like a personal thing, and I try not to get way too personal, but this one I feel very comfortable sharing. But like in November, I weighed myself and I was at 182, and I was really unhappy with that number. That is not a number I should be at. And so I was like, all right, you know what? I want to make a really concerted effort here. I want to drop some weight, and I I gave up like all fast food restaurants. Done. I've given them all up completely. I've definitely dedicated myself to like more of a healthy eating, healthy lifestyle. I keep like oranges and grapes and stuff in my refrigerator. Bottles of water everywhere. I'm not really drinking too much soda anymore. I'm also cooking a ton of salmon, which for those of you who don't know, salmon is delicious and it's also super healthy for you.
I'm having it for dinner tonight, my man.
I have leftover salmon that'll be for my dinner tonight.
Oh, can't wait.
And so I come to Penn State Harrisburg yesterday because we had some baseball games, and I go into the athletic trainer's room and I was like, hey, Pam, that's our athletic trainer. I was like, can you, I wanted to get my blood pressure taken because she checks it for me because it had been high like about a year ago. And ever since then I've been like it was like 150 over 80. And Pam was like, that's too high. That's like way too high for you.
I don't know blood pressures. That sounds high, I guess.
Yeah,
but I'm just thinking like you were
Cameron. For thin people like you and me, we should be hovering like around 120 over 70 or something like that.
All right. Yeah. 120 sounds normal, but I thought you were going to be like, well, it was kind of high last time, and I thought you were going to be like, because the Eagles lost the Super Bowl.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I'm
sure the Eagles bottomed out, so the blood pressure was high. It was high. It was
when the Eagles bottom out, the blood pressure goes pretty low because then I'm like, all right, well, I have nothing left to worry about.
You've accepted defeat. Yeah.
So Jake's blood pressure. Blood pressure, first of all, and if those who are listening will hear this, you'll be like, that's low. Mine was 104 over like 70. She goes, that is low. She goes, why don't you get yourself something to eat? Maybe drink a bottle of water, and then we'll come back and try it again. So go back, much more normal reading, and then I wanted to like, hey, can you weigh me as well? And I didn't, not like I took off my clothes in the athletic trainer's room because I'm not an athlete, but. So figure, she's like, all right, so whatever what you're wearing right now, I'll figure like 4 more pounds added to what we get today.
Okay. And what did you weigh before?
All right, well, I'm getting you at 166.
And you were at 180 what? 181?
I was at 182. So if you take 4 pounds off, that would be 162, which means since November,
Damn.
I've dropped 20 pounds,
There we go, dude. There we go.
which I'm very proud of, and I
Yeah.
definitely don't want to take for granted. I had tried tofu actually for the first time.
What do you think?
You know what? I think the sandwich was amazing on flavor, and the
Okay.
tofu tasted really good. I think the only thing was that the place that I ordered from, it was all like tofu and vegan based,
Right. Right.
and I've never had it before. But this one sandwich, it
Mhm.
was like this banh mi sandwich, and I was like, that sounds really good. It was spicy, so like I wanted something with a little bit of spice. But compared to the other sandwiches, this might have been like the calculus of tofu sandwiches to have, and I'm like a beginner, so probably should have stuck with something a bit more simple. But the sandwich was good. Um, I had it Thursday night, and then I finished it up for like Friday lunch. It tasted very good. I think I want to go back to that place again. I definitely want to go to more like vegan types places. Just not all the time. Like I still love meat and all that stuff, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I really like that place a lot, and I'm definitely wanting to go back there real soon.
No, and like vegan diets are very, very healthy. Again, I'm the same way. And for me, it's not as much the meat that would be the problem. It'd be the cheese. That would be the problem for
Yeah,
myself. I'm just a big cheese guy. It. It makes
you were
or
born
breaks a
you were
meal.
born to be a Packers fan, dude.
Don't. I don't even want to talk about that organization right now
Nah,
because
I know. They're a disgrace, right?
they
They're a
have.
disgrace.
I used to have a ton of respect for that organization, and I respect the history of the organization. But at the same time, most recently with the tush push things, we're not going to talk about it here. You can look it up. You already know what it is. It just uh, weakness from that organization. Would never have expected it. But
To cheese.
But the cheese, yeah, cheese would be the hard part for me for the vegan diet. But no, dude, what's nice is that it's become so popular, right? Like the vegan diet has become so much more popular in the past 5 or 10 years that you can find a lot of places that really, really do a great job, and they really do it really, really well. And again, it's extremely healthy for you. A lot of athletes do it, especially like MMA fighters go vegan, that kind of stuff. A friend of mine from my wedding, Ty, he went vegan a couple years ago,
Yeah.
and just the pounds just shedded off of him like lickety split. It was kind of wild to see.
I
Much healthier individual now. So
yeah.
you can't recommend it enough, dude. Honestly, if you can find a good place that does it well, just keep going.
I think that well, this place in like downtown Harrisburg, I definitely want to try again. There's also another like plant-based spot that actually the athletic trainer here at Harrisburg, told me about, and
Hmm.
that's like more like themed around Hispanic style foods like tacos, burritos,
Hmm.
bowls, and stuff like that. So I want to check that out as well.
Again, dude, like beans, like those, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of Indian food too. You can get a lot of really, really,
Yeah,
really
that's like
good vegan Indian food. Oh my gosh, man. Yeah, I'm getting
so.
hungry now
There's
thinking
endless
about it.
options, but I just I think that it was one day in particular that it really began to stick out to me. I remember being like we were setting up for basketball upstairs,
Hmm.
and I had to like reach down to like get like an extension cord and like pull it underneath the table so that way I could just do the setup the way they were supposed to. And I remembered leaning down, and there was like all like it just felt like this tightness and heaviness up near my neck,
Hmm.
and like I could like I came back up and like my face was red, and I'm like I'm having trouble leaning down now. Like I'm
Right.
feeling that sluggish. I'm feeling that bloated that even leaning down is kind of like a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And so I was like, nah, I don't want to do this. I definitely don't want to feel like this. And
Hmm.
so ever since then, I'll tell you what, that tofu, like, the salads and everything that I've been eating, you just feel so much fresher after it.
You do. You do.
It's such a different feeling.
Like the hard part is like, especially when you're used to eating fast food or you're used to eating something with a lot of salt, those salt,
Yeah.
sodium, sugar, those things. It's like you crave them. So once you're making the transition is the hardest part because you're thinking to yourself like I'm going to eat a salad, but it's like that sounds so boring. That doesn't sound like it tastes nearly as good. But then, like you said, the more you eat it, you realize that it's like you're not going for it for the taste. You're going for the feeling afterward, which is like energized, not tired, feeling fulfilled, not bloated. Those things. It's the same for me. Like when I switched to doing mostly like morning oats in the morning for breakfast anymore, it's like breakfast food is my favorite type of food. Eggs, bacon, pork roll, hash browns, all the bad shit.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best.
Absolutely.
But I found that if I just do a cream of oats in the morning, it doesn't taste like really anything. It's very bland, but I feel great throughout the day. Like it's just a steady level of just energy. feeling nice, healthy, same exact feeling that you basically just described.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and you know, people tell you like you either really love tofu or you really hate it. I think because it was my first time trying it, I definitely liked it. I certainly didn't hate it. I enjoyed the sandwich.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say about the sandwich that I would have wanted a little bit different was that the bread was just like it didn't like when you bit into it, kind of like stretched, and like the sandwich would start to fall
Mm.
apart in my hand a little bit. And I was like, I kind of wish that the bread was maybe a bit more toasted, so that way you get that crisp bite off of it. That was the
Right.
only thing I probably would have said about that sandwich. But the taste, the flavor, and again coming out of it, wake up the next morning, you just feel so fresh as
You just
opposed
don't
to how
feel
you
like
might
crap.
feel if you had like
Yeah.
a burger from McDonald's or something along those lines.
That same friend who switched to going vegan. I remember one time he said that he had McDonald's like because he's vegan, but he's not. He'll dabble every
He's
once
not a
in a while.
strict vegan, yeah.
Yeah, and it's very rare that he dabbles, but he will dabble every once in a while. And I remember the first time he had McDonald's after he switched for a couple of months, he said that his stomach felt the same way it would feel after a night of heavy drinking of hard liquor.
Really, that's how he felt.
He
Ooh.
was like it felt like it destroyed me. Absolutely destroyed him. And it's when you go away from those foods and then you come back to them, that's when you really notice it.
Mhm.
That's when you really notice the sluggishness. Like that's when you really notice that you just daily tasks are hard to do. And it's funny because like we're not even 30 yet. So you having that feeling, we're all kind of going through those moments where it's just like, I shouldn't feel this old yet.
No, I think that
Like,
was the biggest thing for me is like, I'm not 30 and I was winded by bending over to
yeah.
grab an extension cord.
Yeah. And
That's
the last time like you thought about when you were tired, you were just like, I usually get tired if I'm like playing football.
yeah, right?
And it's like, and when was the last time I did that? Like
So,
that was a long time ago.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
being 20 pounds,
It's
like,
rough, man.
I really do feel like that I had lost that type of weight too. Like whenever I would like be walking, I'd go for these long walks, what I like to
Mm-hmm.
do.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe back in like November or December when I'd be doing them, like I would get tired a little bit quicker. But now, like I can just keep going and going and going, like the way that I have always been able to.
Right.
It's a really, really good feeling. And for anyone out there who's also doing the same thing that I've been doing, where like you're trying to like lose weight and get back into a shape that you're comfortable with, just keep at it. That's the only thing I can always keep telling you is just keep at it. And also, don't like kill yourself and beat yourself up if you have one day where like you eat something that's not good and you feel lousy from it, because it's gonna be there's gonna be hundreds of days for you to like make up for that
Yeah.
stuff. Like
Yeah.
before I came over here, I made myself buffalo wings. It's one of my favorite things to make. I think you can lose weight but still enjoy the things that you enjoy.
Yeah.
Uh,
And everybody's different too. And like your body's different, your hormones are different. Things that would be easier for you to do 5 years ago might not be as easy for you to do. So don't get discouraged. Also, if you're trying something that worked 5 years ago that isn't working now, doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It just means you
mhm,
might have to pivot, might have to go somewhere else. Um, but yeah, as long as you just keep going, it'll work out. It'll work
absolutely.
out. Just keep going. And
And
it's
definitely, if you guys haven't given tofu a chance, give it a chance. I was really surprised how good it tasted. I was
it,
really, really shocked.
I think it all depends on how it's made. I had it one time, but it was made by like not a chef, so it wasn't great for me. But it was again made by not a chef. No idea how they would have prepared it if they would have prepared it differently. But to go off of too, like before we close out, like you mentioning just being older and things being different. Like I used to skateboard throughout the day back in the day when I was younger in my teenage years,
He was a
and I
skater boy.
and I was, and I and a couple of years ago I picked it back up just again recreational cardio, that kind of stuff too.
Mhm.
Just getting back into it, kind of like a little midlife crisis in my app. I like 27 or whatever, and not quite the same in terms of feeling like winded, but that's when I felt my age was with the first time I fell on a skateboard again.
Oh yeah.
And it hurt, and I thought like it hurt, but I'm good. I've done this before, and I fell on my side, just a simple little fall, land on my hip, little pointer. My hip had a knot on it for like 2 weeks, and it just that had never happened before. It got to the point where I thought I'm like, did I like is that like a bone fragment? What happened? like this has never happened to my body before. I don't know how to handle it, and it's like I fell couple. I mean, I want to say over a year ago onto my wrist. Still, certain times if you move it a certain way, it still hurt, and it's just like that's never happened. I don't like this. I don't like feeling my age. It's a
And it's
daunting feeling, man.
it's crazy to think too, because we're the same age as a guy like Saquon Barkley, and like it's you can't compare. You really can't compare physiques, and you can't compare fitness, because obviously one person is dedicated to their craft and is constantly having to train to play in the most a grueling sport of all time.
Yeah.
And then there's people like you and I who are like eating Cool Ranch Doritos with the bag on our stomachs while judging the players that are out there doing that grueling sport.
Right. Hang on to the ball. Yeah. Yeah. But you're right. Like I do when I watch guys like him though, and I see especially running backs, and they're just getting, I mean, again, I slipped on a skateboard and it hurt for 2 months. And these guys are running full speed at other guys who are running full speed, who also weigh 200 pounds, who are hitting them as hard as they possibly can, and then just getting up and lining back up. It's yeah.
I think that everyone's a tough guy until, like, if you put me in pads and had me get tackled by, say, I don't know, let's just say Jalen Carter, just as hard as he could, just tackle me in the ground, I'm not so sure I'm getting up. And
I don't think I'm going to work for 2 weeks.
No, I dove down to stop a soccer ball 2 years ago, like at Penn State, just messing around with some of the students. Dove down to stop it. My shoulder is still messed up from that. I don't know if I hurt my AC joint. I don't know if I maybe partially tore a rotator cuff. I have no idea what happened. But I cannot throw a football anymore the same way that I could, because now it begins to hurt after like 2 or 3 throws. And yeah, that's a sad feeling for me.
Yeah, it's like, dude, you go to be reversing in a car, and it's just like, well, that never clicked before, but it's clicking. I guess that clicks now. My shoulder just clicks.
I guess it's just a click.
That's what it is.
But to close down the Fly Guys podcast, obviously, another really awesome way to close this one out is to remember that we're still only 28 years old, Cameron, and we're talking like we're 58. So just imagine what we'll be like when we're 58 years old.
Walking up a flight of stairs, man. It's just
going to be rough.
Agony.
It's going to be
agony. But no, that is why it's important, again, PSA, even though that's not what we do, but PSA. That's why it's important now. Start doing these things now. Like you said, you noticed something a year ago, and you said, I don't like it. I don't like that I bent over, and it felt like I had a neck pillow. So I'm going to do something about that and try to be healthier.
It's never too late to take care of yourself. But all right, so for the Fly Guys podcast, my name is Justin Goodart. He's Cameron Klein. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at the Fly Guys Podcast, on Instagram at Fly Guys Podcast. Be happy, be healthy, and as always, let's go Flyers.